Hey everyone, on a rainy day, this is Dawn Woods, hunkered down, a little chilly here in Charlotte, although my brother in West Chicago would laugh at me if I said that. I am here to circle back with you to do the fourth session in my mini video series for parents of teenagers. I am doing 7 sessions. This is the fourth one. I'll copy the links to the other 3 sessions in the post when I put this on YouTube, so you can go back and watch those if you haven't seen those yet. Would love for you to pass these forward to any friends who are kind of in the midst of parenting teenagers. I know quarantine brings about some interesting dynamics, some really actually very good, and some that maybe have been a little harder, but these points that I've wanted to bring up actually just have to do with parenting teenagers. So they are not unique to any kind of quarantine situation. These are themes I've seen come up with the families I've worked with for over 20 years. Just the over and over and over again. These are the ones I've paid attention to, and I thought, gosh, that'd be good for me to share with you, maybe during this time when you have the time to sit and watch a short video. So anyway, thank you for joining me, and you can sign up for these or find any of my writings and speaking events, although not going on right now, of course, but on my website, Poulterer-Woods.com. So find me there, subscribe if you want to be alerted to information I send out, or if you have any questions for me. But I have an important topic, I think, today that, again, came up a lot with my students that I worked with and my families that I worked with. I found there to be some unnecessary struggles happening in families because this was a hard piece to come by. So let me first start by saying I grew up in a home and feel I have benefited a great deal from a mom who practiced this well. So the topic today is learning to admit we're wrong, learning to say we're sorry. And my mom did a good job at this. Now let me say my mom was not a pushover. My mom is from the Northeast, outside of Philadelphia, was a social worker in downtown Philly, and a tough woman with a big personality, lots of fun, and not someone who had to just dismiss conflict or appease me or any of us. For that matter. We all have grown up watching a mom admit that she was wrong when she was wrong. And seems simple, but I've found it's hard to find in families. I think there's a resistance on our part to this for various reasons, which I'll get to in a minute here. But let me start by saying, just think through this and evaluate this. Do a little self-reflection on this. I had a number of kids tell me in my office, I've never heard my parents say they're sorry. I've never once heard them admit they were wrong. It's troubling in the sense that what you want for your kids, I would think, and what we all desire to see in them is a humility. And humility is cultivated in part by being able to admit when we've said something wrong, when we've responded wrongly to something, when we've handled a situation wrong. And for them to grow into people who practice this kind of humility, they have to witness it. It has to be modeled out in their homes. And I think we won't get very far with our kids and even as a teacher, I found this to be true, if I didn't admit that I was wrong, because the truth is I was messing up. I would lose my temper a little bit in class, or I would get frustrated, or I would have been stressed and took it out on my students, and I really did do wrong by them. It doesn't mean that I let go of anything that they were doing wrong in the midst of that. I wasn't dismissing maybe certain behaviors of theirs, but I was taking ownership for the part that I was playing, and I noticed how much it mattered to them to do that. So think through this for a minute with yourselves, because there's reasons for why we do it, or why we don't do it, I should say. But let me say this: we live in a culture that does not model it well. We have plenty of people who are erring on the side of defensiveness. It's all over the media, it's all over TV shows, it's in the movies. There's trouble. We have trouble saying we were wrong. We are quick to point out when someone else has hurt us, when we have been misunderstood or treated badly, but flip it around and it's hard to find. So I think, for one, you want to raise kids who are the opposite of the cultural norm today, to be defensive. Second of all, I was thinking about friendships, marriages, leadership positions. When we are humble enough to admit we're wrong in any of those situations, we begin to be more trusted by people. We are approachable. People feel safe with us. So the relationships or the environment, as a result of that kind of willingness to admit we're wrong, grows. It expands with kindness and graciousness. A home feels safe when people admit their fault. It's not to say it's always easy to do. It's most certainly not. I struggle with it all the time. But it does do wonders for a relationship. I think we were meant to love each other this way. So I think that one of the reasons we have a hard time is we're afraid we're going to lose our authority. I guess we think that we're letting our kids off the hook, that they did wrong or or were disrespectful or didn't do the chore you asked them to do. And it's not that. You aren't dismissing their part. What you are doing is you are saying sorry for, maybe losing your temper or taking your stress out on them or forgetting something important that mattered to them. And it's just, it's modeling this out for them, that if you can admit you're wrong, they can admit they're wrong. I found this in my friendships. I find this in my marriage and with my relationship with my parents and my siblings. If I admit that I'm wrong, oftentimes they feel the freedom to also own their own part in it. Because I heard a quote one time, we respond sinfully to being sinned against. So if someone does wrong to me, most likely my response is not going to be a healthy response, because I'm angry or I'm hurt. And so we can always own something, right? In any equation, we can always own something. So think about it as you move into this week. Is there anything you can look back on that you need to apologize to your kids about? Is there anything that was left undone that you could circle back and say, hey, I'm sorry that I lost my temper, or I'm sorry I took my stress out on you? And as you move through the rest of this week and into the weekend and next week, pay attention. Where are the little pockets that you can model out this kind of humility to your kids, and grab a hold of them? Otherwise, we get into these power struggles. And when we can just kind of throw up the flag and say we're sorry, a lot of productive conversation can come from that. Maybe not right away, but it's cultivated in our home. So that's my tip for you today. I will see you next week for session 5. In the meantime, I hope you have a great rest of your week. Take care.